And we continue at 1:06 in the afternoon. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wiggs in Culver City.
Now, John, I'm not usually one for puns. I find it to be the lowest form of comedy. But Tyler writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and said, hey, when Gavin runs for president, is he going to have Alexandria Pistachio Cortez as his running mate?
Pistachios.
It's possible. Side note before we get to the topic, what the hell happened to Al Sharpton? He looks like he's got some kind of tropical disease.
If we were really tasteless people, we would have a new segment on this show, Ozempic or cancer, but we're not tasteless.
Honestly, I know people think that they look better when they get thin. He looks horrible.
If you lose weight naturally, gradually, your body kind of goes with you and you don't really notice it. When you do one of these drastic things, whether it's the bariatric surgery or Ozempic or the lap band, it always looks strange.
He looked so much better back in the 80s and the 90s when he was a big fat guy with the facial hair and the purple velour jumpsuits. Back when he was working for James Brown.
Some people look better fat.
And then I don't know what he did. Maybe it's a crash diet. Maybe it's the Ozempic. I don't know. One of my friend's mothers, who was a very attractive woman, and then gained some weight, and then was horrified by the fact that she gained some weight, figured out that she could buy black market Ozempic down in Mexico. And her attitude was, if one shot is good, then 10 are better.
Oh, no.
And the woman just turned her stomach into a pincushion. And she looks great now, but that can't be good.
No. This stuff is all still very new, and I think we're going to see a lot of unintended side effects from all of the Ozempicing.
Yeah. If that's what Sharpton's doing, he should lay off. He looked much, much, much better in the tracksuits back in the old days. Back when he had a bee in his bonnet with the Jews. You remember that, Randy?
Oh, yeah.
He cleaned that up, too. That we can take. We don't need any of that kind of conflict. But the weight, he looked better fat. All right, moving on. On Tuesday, there was an election in Oakland to see who would replace former Mayor Sheng Tao.
Shangy, go bye-bye.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, here's what's funny. Nobody voted. Turnout was basically zero. And we're now 2 days removed from the election. We have no clue who the winner is. They have now told us that we won't know for some time and to stop asking.
The Alameda County Registrar of Voters isn't dealing with an entire countywide election or statewide elections or national elections. This is one special election that had 3 questions in Oakland. Only about 40,000 ballots or 20% of people actually turned out to vote. And they won't even give us the next update until Friday. And then the Friday after that, and then the Friday after that, and then they'll certify the thing. So even though Loren Taylor has a 3-point lead over Barbara Lee, speaks for me, nobody can call this race till at least the weekend.
Okay, and people are pissed off at Elon Musk because he's saying that there are plenty of people who work for the government who are useless. They have an entire department in that county that exists to count votes and run elections. And they can't figure out who won an election that no one voted in for weeks?
For more on the latest state of the never-ending Oakland mayor's race, here is KPIX.
In Oakland, where voters are anxiously awaiting to find out who will be their next mayor. Right now, former council member Loren Taylor holds a slim lead over former Congresswoman Barbara Lee, 51 to 49%. And when you run the ballots through the ranked choice runoff, but another 42,000 ballots still need to be processed.
That's it. It's going to take weeks.
This is unreal.
And with ranked choice voting, we have seen some races in the past shift as those very last ballots are counted.
That's how we ended up with the former mayor, of Oakland.
You know, that's what a mayor do.
Did.
And take a look at this, a clear divide between supporters of the two candidates. Barbara Lee winning the zip codes highlighted in orange, while Loren Taylor had more support in areas highlighted in purple.
Oh, it's a fascinating map, and people are putting it out online where pretty much all the suburbs voted for Loren Taylor, and then downtown West Oakland, East Oakland, the Hagenberger, all of that area is strongly for Barbara Lee, except this little dot, Chinatown.
Yeah, gee, I wonder why.
Our Tara St. Cyr spoke to Oaklanders about this divide.
This is a very tight mayoral race, and some people in Oakland are just ready to get in those results.
And you're going to have to wait for quite a while.
Yeah, this isn't going to be Christmas morning anticipation here.
As votes slowly trickle in what's expected to be a very tight race, Robin Violet is anxious to know who will be Oakland's next mayor.
We definitely are following and want to know and want to see what the mayor's what they're out of the gate, what they're going to do.
Loren Taylor and Barbara Lee are neck and neck for the highest position in the city, with Taylor showing a slight lead with the ballots counted so far.
44 years.
Violet thinks Oakland is ready for a change, and this special election is just the beginning of that. That's why she cast her ballot for Taylor.
He hit the ground running in Oakland, even though, not to say that Barbara Lee doesn't have any familiarity with Oakland, but also he's younger.
Oh, that's got to hurt.
Oh, Barbara is not going to want to hear that.
You know, they haven't shown any exit polling, but I would be fascinated to know how much age was a factor in how people voted in this election.
Well, particularly because we live in a state where Dianne Feinstein just died in office, and Joe Biden had to drop out of the presidential race because he was senile and demented.
But also, he's younger. We need more younger people.
More younger? Well, it is Oakland.
What are you going to do?
We need more younger people in the Democratic.
Maybe we'll get a more better candidate.
Unlikely.
The Democratic Party.
Violet represents the majority in the Montclair area that largely voted in Taylor's favor. An electoral map of early results shows that Taylor held the lead in the Oakland Hills, but the flatland neighborhoods, including large parts of West and East Oakland and downtown, favor Barbara Lee. But USF political science...
So the places with the highest crime still went for Barbara Lee.
See, this is what I don't understand. All of the places that are terrorized by crime, by homelessness, by filth, everything that we talk about on a daily basis, for whatever reason, they don't make the connection. It's the people that have to go there for shopping or use the airport or use the civic center or whatever the case may be. They're the ones that are horrified that say, oh, my God, we can't let the entire city look like this. But the people who live there seem to be very tolerant of it.
Well, and there's a very important voting bloc. The criminals themselves, Johnny, who do you think they voted for?
Barbara Lee speaks for me.
But USF political science professor James Taylor says that...
Not that James Taylor.
Different guy.
But USF political science professor James Taylor says that voter turnout could play a critical role in who wins this race.
Which there was none.
20%?
Advantage Loren Taylor if there's a low turnout. Barbara Lee is famous. Barbara Lee is a legend. Barbara Lee is a California jewel. And
I don't know about that.
Who is he?
He's James Taylor.
Political scientist at the University of San Francisco, huh?
He's James Taylor, but he sounds like James Brown.
He kind of does.
Advantage Loren Taylor if there's a low turnout. Barbara Lee is famous. Barbara Lee is a legend. Barbara Lee is a California jewel.
And when Barbara Lee ran for Senate, nobody knew who she was.
Think about that for a second. She's been in the Congress for decades. Before that, she was in the state legislature. Her name ID statewide was 0.
She didn't even win in Alameda County.
No.
And if voters are not coming out in droves to say, we are behind you because we see the urgency of our city. We've had all of these disruptions and eruptions. We need you to come and calm things down. If voters are not showing that enthusiasm from Barbara Lee, maybe they're willing to go with Loren Taylor as the younger person.
Oh, that's gotta hurt. Even James Brown doesn't like the fact that she's 80.
They're all hitting her on age.
Excuse me, James Taylor.
Maybe they're willing to go with Loren Taylor as a younger person who, with insider insight from the city council.
As of Wednesday, voter turnout was just under 20%.
Wait, so under 20%? It didn't even hit 20.
It's fascinating to me. I mean, you had a certain portion of the city that voted to recall Sheng Tao and a much smaller percentage that actually cares who replaces Sheng Tao.
I can get that.
You know, there are a lot of things in this world that make no sense to me. You could put that at the top of the list because it's not like you're voting on the government of a place that you don't live in. You live there. Your 911 system doesn't work. You have no DMV. You have no professional sports teams. Your airport doesn't want to be associated with your city.
They have one professional sports team.
Oakland Bees!
And you're okay with all of that.
Oh, don't forget the Roots.
As of Wednesday, voter turnout was just under 20%, a stark contrast to the 53% turnout in 2022's mayoral election when Sheng Tao won.
Oakland's tired. Oakland's tired.
Michael Morano.
We do get a certain sense of defeatism from the men on the street in Oakland.
Oh, across the board.
Michael Morano decided to sit this election out.
I think the problems are so systemic that people are stepping away and saying, I can't vote in this election. I can't, put my name down on somebody because of the system that's there.
But he's still anxiously...
Okay, that's the dumbest comment I've heard all day. And I just listened to Gavin Newsom speak for an hour.
This is where you can make your voice heard, and it is not like both candidates are the exact same person. They had wildly different views on things like public safety, something that affects you every single day, but it doesn't matter. The whole system's broken. When you have this level of low turnout in local elections, whether it be the city of Oakland or the city of Los Angeles, that's how you end up getting the more extreme candidates. Like, I don't know, Ulysses Hernandez, who won in a district with very little actual participation.
Are we going to get it?
Well, who was that guy in Orange? I think I told you about this election. They had a school board election in the city of Orange that no one voted in. I think the guy's name was Steve Rocco. And there was a guy who was a park ranger who everyone just assumed was going to win. And this gadfly named Steve Rocco ran against him. And Steve Rocco is a guy who dresses in camouflage, wears a beanie, wears sunglasses indoors, total conspiracy theorist, thinks people are out to get him, gets arrested all over the place and claims that it's the Illuminati or whatever it is that he thinks is out there. And he would show up to these meetings, and they would be talking about whether or not they're going to allocate money for a new playground at the elementary school or what date should the graduation be for the high school, subjects that a school board would have to decide. And then it would come time for him to weigh in, and he would talk about lying in wait in the jungle with a hand grenade in one hand and a machine gun in the other, and the next time someone pops out from behind a tree, it was going to be theirs. And then you had members of the school board who I think had to take out restraining orders on him, but he's a duly elected official, and they had a hell of a time figuring out how to conduct those meetings. But this is what happens when nobody votes.
If you want to look that up, by the way, do a Google on the YouTube for Steve Rocco, ROCCO School Board. There are a ton of videos still out there. I just don't want to play any of them live without vetting them because I don't want to have to hit the dump button in both markets.
Well, it's a story that if you just tell people who've never heard about it, they don't believe you. But trust me when I say it's true.
Problems are so systemic that people are stepping away and saying, I can't vote in this election. I can't, put my name down on somebody because of the system that's there.
Well, that's how the end times work, buddy.
Pretty much.
If you don't vote, that means that somebody else's vote is twice as powerful.
Yeah, because that guy didn't vote, people dumber than him did.
But he's still anxiously awaiting the results.
Who cares? You didn't vote. If you did not pick between Loren Taylor, Barbara Lee, or President Christina Grappo, or the 8 other gadflies, why do you even care who wins?
None of what this man is saying makes any sense.
It is funny, right? California claims over and over and over again that we have made it so easy to vote. You can do it by mail up to a month early. You can put it in that ballot box at 8 o'clock at night, and it can be counted 7 days later with a postmark. And it has not increased turnout at all.
Well, here's what's funny. We're relying on the same people who can't figure that out to get a real ID.
But he's still anxiously awaiting the results.
Someone's going to win. That's an election. Someone's going to get more votes than the other, and that's the result.
But that
Boy, that's a great comment.
But that could take a while. Mail-in ballots are accepted for 7 days after the election, as long as they were postmarked on Election Day. It's also a long process for the registrar's office.
We're waiting for that constituency that didn't give a rat's ass about this election until 7:59 on Tuesday.
Well, those votes are going to break for Lee.
It's also a long process for the registrar's office to tally mail-in ballots and verify signatures.
There's only 40,000 of them.
What do they do when there's an election that has actual turnout?
I'll tell you, when we've covered statewide elections, which we've done on KBC and KSFO for years now, Alameda County is the slowest to update for everything.
Yeah, California needs a Doge real bad.
With much of the work done manually. That means voters like Violet could be in limbo for a few weeks. Election results will be released every Friday until the certification deadline on May 15th.
The election was 2 days ago, and we won't know who won until May 15th.
And it appears Charlene Wang will be the next
No relation.
And it appears Charlene Wang will be the next Oakland City Council person in District 2. She has a wide lead with 66% when you go through ranked choice voting rounds. Wang would represent parts of Chinatown, Jack London Square, Lakeshore, and Highland Terrace. And voters in Oakland are poised to raise the city sales tax by 0.5%.
Oh, yeah, they voted overwhelmingly of the people that actually voted to increase their sales taxes because the city's broke.
Well, that's encouraging.
If you wonder if your vote matters or not, 20% of the population decided for 100% of the population that now you have to pay more in taxes.
Have fun with that. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, now that we've hit the halfway point of today's show, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
Like maybe you want to go back and listen to some classic Oakland crime blotter stories.
Oh my God, they melted the basketball court.
Search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcast, whether that's the Apple Podcast app.
It's a lot of crime now.
iHeart.
It's Wild Wild West out here.
Spotify.
Who else are we going to call Superman?
Search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe, and download all the blotters.
I said, hell no, baby boy. Let me get up on out of here.
We told you earlier in the week that it was suspected that homeless people in a nearby encampment stole the copper wire out of the facility that houses the DMV in Oakland. That caused the electricity to go out and the building to flood. Well, as it turns out, Randy, Oakland's going to be without a DMV for quite a while.
As long as 4 or 5 months.
At the same time when everyone's supposed to get the real ID.
For more on the impact of a DMV destroyed in Oakland, here is NBC Bay Area.
Copper thieves have now created a hassle for thousands of East Bay DMV customers. The theft and other vandal damage has now forced an Oakland DMV office to just shut down, possibly for months. And now that closure has drivers scrambling to find appointments at other offices. NBC Bay Area's Mayoral Favreau is in Hayward with a look at the impact.
The line inside this DMV office in Hayward is long, with many people who normally would have gone to the Oakland office scrambling to come here. And
oh, what a nightmare.
Can you imagine? Going to the DMV is a pain under the best of circumstances. Going to a DMV that is servicing people that should be serviced in a different part of California, in addition to everyone in your community, has to be a complete nightmare.
And the timing couldn't have been worse for the Oakland closure because so many people are scrambling to get their real IDs before the May 7th deadline. Long lines at the Claremont Avenue DMV in Oakland. That's what East Bay drivers are dealing with after...
By the way, anybody freaking out about that deadline, you can still get on a plane if you have a passport or a global entry. If you don't have any of those, then you can't get on a plane. So you could schedule a DMV appointment after the deadline when all this mad rush is over.
And why the hell didn't you get it already?
Apparently, you need a lot of forms. I haven't gotten mine, and I'm renewing my license this year, and I'm not going to get the real ID because I don't need it because I have a global entry card.
That's true. Just don't forget it.
Long lines at the Claremont Avenue DMV in Oakland. That's what East Bay drivers are dealing with after vandals targeted this DMV office on 85th Avenue.
I feel like vandals doesn't accurately describe what happened to that building.
No, when the people who work at that DMV were interviewed and the cops were interviewed, they all pretty much know who did it, but they don't want to do anything about it because they were homeless.
This is like when George Gascon tried to claim that a woman who was sexually assaulted in downtown Long Beach by a homeless woman was vandalized.
Like she's a vending machine.
This building was destroyed by bums ripping out copper piping and copper wire in a known homeless encampment that the city ignored.
That's what East Bay drivers are dealing with after vandals targeted this DMV office on 85th Avenue, forcing it to close. This is what the office looks like now. DMV says thieves stole copper wiring, causing flooding, damage to the heating and air conditioning system, and the light poles in the parking lot.
Oh, my.
Did anything go untouched?
They got it all.
DMV officials say it could take 4 to 5 months.
You know, we're going to have at the end of the year a ranking of the most ridiculous copper theft stories in California. And right now, DMV is slightly topping the Vallejo school that was shut down for 2 weeks.
Yeah, this is pretty ridiculous.
DMV officials say it could take 4 to 5 months before repairs are made and the office can reopen.
There's the California state at work.
It takes us over a month to count the votes in Oakland in an election that no one voted in, and it's going to take us 5 months to fix the DMV and get it back to up and running.
The unexpected closure sent drivers heading to other DMV offices, including this one in Hayward.
So I live in Oakland, and the one when I went to it was closed, and I went to the Claremont. It was at least like 100 and 150 people, and then I went to El Cerrito. That one.
And those lines do not move.
This guy is going to strike out every DMV he goes to.
Well, you know what's so irritating is these people are going to be standing in these lines, and when they get up to the window, the person behind the window is going to crassly say, you know, you'd save a lot of time if you made an appointment. And then he would say, I did make an appointment, but that DMV flooded.
Yeah, he made an appointment all right over at the lost city of Atlantis.
And then I went to El Cerrito. That one is also closed. And I had to drive all the way 45 minutes to come here.
Evelina Wixon says she couldn't afford to wait at the Hayward office.
I was going to get my registration up to date, but the line is so long, and I'm going to have to come back another day, I guess.
If you're just doing the registration, maybe this isn't as well known as I thought it was, but go to the Safeway, go to the Ralphs. They have those DMV ATMs. You don't have to go to the DMV for that.
Well, and for a lot of the administrative stuff, you can just go to the auto club.
And I'm going to have to come back another day, I guess.
In a Facebook post, Oakland City Councilman Kevin Jenkins said in part, quote, it has come to our attention that the DMV has been forced to temporarily close and install fencing due to issues stemming from a nearby encampment and a recent incident of copper theft. He adds, I have spoken with City Administrator Justin Johnson and directed him to clear.
Wait, why does that guy still have his job? That was Shangy's guy.
Yeah, he was very close to Shangy.
He adds,
every single presser would shout out, and the city administrator is here, Justin Johnson.
Wasn't he the guy that forgot to fill out the paperwork to send into Sacramento for grant money that was there for the taking for police?
Doing a heck of a job.
He adds, I have spoken with City Administrator Justin Johnson and directed him to clear the encampment as quickly as physically possible.
So they can clear the encampments.
But they're still talking about it. They haven't done it yet. If they flooded the DMV and took the DMV offline for 5 months, wouldn't you have the cops there that morning?
to protect this critical piece of infrastructure.
Also, if we know who did it, how come none of those homeless people are in handcuffs right now?
Good question.
But for those trying to get their real ID before the May 7th travel deadline, frustrations are mounting.
I left my whole work today just because of the DMV thing.
I got to go to the DMV in the middle of May. I scheduled a 7 a.m. appointment. Do you think I'm going to make it on time for work?
Okay, that's the trick. If you want to go to the DMV and you don't want any hassle, make the first appointment that they offer that day. If it's 7 a.m., make it 7 a.m. Have an appointment, be there on time. It's always worked out for me.
And it's still not been done, and it's quite frustrating. I've been here for like 4 hours now, and still I'm waiting.
In Hayward, Marianne Favreau, NBC Bay Area News.
4 hours.
Well, that seems like a complete nightmare.
What do you think was a more pungent smell this week? That guy standing in line at the DMV for 4 hours, or the people standing in line to get into the campgrounds at Coachella for 4 hours?
But here's the crazy part. We know that the homeless encampment flooded the DMV. These people's lives are being ruined because of it, and half of these idiots voted for Barbara Lee.
Quite
frankly. And a majority of those idiots voted to raise their own taxes. Explain that one to me.
Californians love taxing themselves. There's no other possible explanation. We did it here in Los Angeles County. Homelessness has been a complete failure. Ever since they passed the homeless sales tax in 2016, the number has exploded. And in 2024, what did voters do? They voted to double that sales tax.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're keeping an eye on the mailbag.
Mark writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. The name Justin Johnson sounds like a porn star.
It kind of does. Doesn't DC Comics, don't they use names that have the same letter for the first name is the same letter for the last name, like Lois Lane?
Oh, yeah. Or Marvel,
Yeah.
Peter Parker.
That's right.
Justin Johnson.
All right. It's time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And Randy, this edition takes us to Los Feliz.
Where, surprise, surprise, even more copper wire theft is going on, keeping the entire neighborhood in darkness. Thanks, Nethia. For more, here's KTLA.
Now at 10:30, people living in Los Feliz say the ongoing theft of copper wire from streetlights has plunged entire neighborhoods into darkness.
Wasn't that Rick James' nickname for Charlie Murphy?
Darkness.
And that has crime on the rise. The residents say they feel increasingly vulnerable and frustrated that despite their concerns, nothing is being done to address the issue.
Well, who'd you elect to run your neighborhood? Oh, Nithya Raman? Twice? Good luck with that.
Yeah, you elected the exact wrong person.
They had a chance to elect Ethan Weaver, a neighborhood prosecutor who cared about crimes like this, and instead they doubled down on the DSA to the point where she won outright in the primary.
Have fun in the dark.
KTLA's Rick Chambers live in Los Feliz, where he spoke with several of those residents tonight. Rick.
Yeah, Micah, you can't really get a good feel for just how dark this neighborhood can get, even with a full moon, until we turn our camera lights off. People have been complaining.
Now he's doing the report in the dark.
You know what's funny? There are some restaurants that are still like that. You go to some of these old-timey restaurants, you're trying to go to the bathroom, you're bumping into furniture.
As incredible as the food is, and it is such a legendary establishment, when you go to Casa Vega in Sherman Oaks, if you go there for lunch and you come out and it's sunny outside, you are going to be dazed and confused.
It's like the Blue Bayou.
There's Bakari, which is this wonderful tapas chain that's all around the place. And there's one in Sherman Oaks. And I felt like I was 70 years old because I am using my phone's flashlight to read the menu. It's so dark in there.
Well, here's why they do it. If you make the restaurant that dark, everyone just got a lot more attractive.
People have been complaining about this, and now they're just frustrated and fearful. Over the past couple of weeks, parts of Los Feliz have slowly been going dark, and these high-voltage boxes contain the reason.
Somebody's lifting up the covers,
They're taking the
high-voltage coppers, and they're cutting all the wires.
Was that Rick Chavez Burr?
It is not. Although it is his district.
Somebody's
Sounds
lifting
like
up,
him.
Somebody's lifting up the covers,
They're taking the
high-voltage coppers, and they're cutting all the wires.
Yeah, the homeless don't care the term high voltage.
No, that doesn't scare them one bit.
A Ring camera caught this man doing exactly that, stealing the copper wire.
It couldn't be that much in each little one, but it leaves everything dark about two streets up and down.
It's the most fascinating crime because you don't actually make that much money off the stolen copper wire, but it costs cities so much time, money, and energy to fix this problem.
No, it's the perfect crime if you're someone who has zero regard for those around you.
Well, and when you leave a neighborhood plunged into darkness, you create the perfect scenario for more crime.
How do you think Wyatt Earp would have handled this?
And these darkened vintage streetlights make it harder to enjoy the neighborhood.
You don't want to go for a walk at night because you don't want to trip or fall. And plus, we don't want to be robbed. It's just so there's no lights anymore.
The criminals probably drive around, and they know the neighborhoods without streetlights, those are the ones where it's real easy to mug somebody.
Well, these criminals aren't driving around, maybe in a shopping cart.
Randy Laborde
Streetlight warrior
and John Fleck have been passing out flyers in this area, drawing attention to the safety issue.
All of the lights are out, and it's pitch dark at night. I'm afraid to go out.
Barbara Wright worries about strangers lurking nearby.
It scares me at night because it's totally pitch dark. It's just pitch dark. And they were robbed across the street not too long ago, so that's frightening.
This is one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Hollywood.
And this is how they live.
This is right on the door of Griffith Park.
For him, he's already had a heart attack.
Oh, my.
Well, you better keep that medication handy.
We've had break-ins in the cars, so now we don't have any lights, so we're more fearful of what might happen at night.
City Council member Rahman sent us a statement saying in part that she's aware of the issue.
Of course she is, and she's doing nothing about it.
Well, they should count it as a victory that she didn't tell all the homeowners to check their privilege because the homeless needed that copper.
Is trying to get the lights back on and ensure safety while they're off. And police patrols have stepped up, but repairs will take a while.
To give us a timeline of anywhere from 2 months to a year.
That's completely unacceptable. That is pathetic.
What are they doing, counting votes in Oakland?
That seems rather long. I don't understand why they can't just come repair it now.
Dog walkers would like an answer to that, too. At night, with no streetlights, you can't see coyotes until they're next to you.
It's like the nexus of every failure of local government all in one story.
But you're dealing with a population of people who voted for all of it.
To feel like I'm on my tiptoes to make sure they're not, stalking us and potentially harming monsters is a big fear as well.
And then there's property.
Are we going to have to wait till a 2-year-old gets dragged away by a coyote before we put up the lights in Los Feliz?
Pretty much.
And then there's property taxes. Ryan Supple doesn't feel like he's getting much of a bang for his buck.
If I'm paying $28,000 as half of my yearly property tax bill, can I have some lights, please?
Hey, how did you vote on Measure A?
Inquiring minds want to know.
Did you vote for more taxes? Interesting. It was called Measure A in L.A. County and Oakland. Jack up your taxes, because obviously the people in charge know how to spend it.
And it was all very popular.
And while they wait for the city to do something, some of the residents here are now installing motion detectors right above their little stretch of sidewalk so they can help out. in Los Feliz. I'm Rick Chambers. Guys, I'll throw it back to you in the studio.
What's the point of local government if now everyone in that neighborhood has to fend for themselves and put out motion lights?
They contacted their city councilwoman. She said we'll be right on it between 2 months and a year. And these people pay a fortune in taxes to live there. What are you going to do? Start voting different, and you might get different results. You keep voting the same way, you'll be voting in the dark.